So let's see here. Okay. So welcome everyone today for the program, which I'm sure all of you already know quite a lot about, the AI Associate Developer Series 2024. If you didn't have the chance yet to go through this landing page of the program, which contains all of the relevant information, do not worry, you will receive it even in the wrap-up email after the session today, and you will be able to find out all the information about the program, which is listed here. Except for that, you will also receive a lot of useful tools and links after the session and during the session, and us will also answer your questions. So about the series, how we designed and how we intend this series is actually like an intensive training series for certification. So in the long run, the series will last maybe until the end of the year, including certification. In the short run, our plan now is for the next month for you to engage with us in an intensive training twice per week. Whether you participate live or you watch the recordings, it's your own choice. You can do it live or self-paced. This is the happy key to this series, that all of you can enjoy it no matter the time zone, and we hope you will. So the program will last starting today till October 30. This will be the period where we actually hold the live trainings twice a week. Every session will be held on Mondays and Wednesdays at the same time, which is actually it's 3 GMT or 4 CET or 1930 India Standard Time or 10 a.m. Eastern Time in US. I'm sure we can adapt that, but this is the closest we can get to an hour that would suit many of our community segments. The mode will be live stream and self-paced. So if you miss a session, do not worry. You can catch up anytime with the recording and the tools available by email. The only thing that you must keep in mind is that you must actually be registered for that session in order to receive the wrap-up emails. So make sure you register for all the sessions you are interested in, so you receive the tools and the wrap-up email after each session. The Academy Learning Plan, Specialized AI Associate Training. This is the plan we have to complete ideally until the end of the month, but officially in the program, we aim to complete it until mid-November. So you will finish the live stream training, and then you will have another buffer zone to complete the Academy Learning Plan in case you didn't have enough time during this month to complete it. The same will go for the certification. You will have buffer time until the end of the year to prepare for the certification. What we will go through and what we actually learn in this series. For this week, we will go through Studio core concepts. So this week, pretty much the curricula will cover automation developer. Starting next week, we will start diving into the AI capabilities of the UiPath platform. And here you will gain proficiency in document understanding and communications mining. You will build foundational competencies in process automation and, of course, intelligent document processing. This is useful whether you are a starter or you have already touched these UiPath products. So we are waiting also for your feedback. We had a program prerequisite, and if you have not started yet the learning plan in Academy, this is high time to start it. So please make sure you take the link during the session today. After the session today, you make an Academy account and you start onboarding with the learning plan in Academy and start progressing through it. You will have 1.5 months to progress through this learning plan, and you will need the completion of the UiPath Academy learning plan in order to gain the verification test at the end of the series. At the end of this training period, including live stream training and Academy learning plan, you will get a small verification test designed by our certification team. It's like a quiz. It's nothing compared to a certification exam. It's something that will test the knowledge you got and you actually managed to win through this intensive training. So it will be like a short quiz, completely from the subjects that we will go through, pretty easy. And if you complete the Academy Learning Plan, it's a very high chance that you will take the quiz and get the certification voucher for AI Associate Developer. This is here, you can watch also, you can see on the landing page the entire timeline of the series, including the buffer zones, which we have now set. You can let us know if you think some of these buffer zones are are unfair, or you think they should be extended. But for now, with what we took into consideration, this is the best timeline we could achieve, and also to also make it realistically for you to gain your certification. Most importantly, because we are online and offline, live stream and self-paced, we have this unique forum thread for the program, which unites our questions and answers and networking. So you can appeal to the forum thread at any time to connect with your peers, to connect with us, to tag one of the mentors or tag one of us and ask your questions, please, through the UiPath forum thread. I think this should be all. We are starting here today in session 1, where I am very happy to see so many of you. And Wednesday, we will meet in session 2, which you will also receive the registering link today. If you haven't registered yet for the session 2, you will receive from my colleague the registration link to make sure you will be registered for the second session. You mustn't delve into the whole plan of the series now, just as an insurance for you. At each time, within each session, we will make sure to give you all the links and to register you for the next session, call to actions. So you will be enabled with every session to move into the next in order not to overwhelm you with all the information at once. I think at this point, we are pretty done with the introduction. So let's see a bit of the raised hands for now, but we will only give like a few minutes for this. But if your questions were answered, please lower your hands, because at the volume we have now, let's lower our hands if the question was answered, and we'll take 2 questions at this time. Let's say Lucas. Lucas, would you like to unmute? Okay. You have a question for us, Lucas? Okay, I see Lucas is having problems. So let's go to next. Jose. Jose, would you like to place your question live?
Jose, you're on mute if you're trying to speak.
No, now he's not unmuted. He's unmuted, but he mutes and unmutes.
Okay.
Jose?
Post it on Q&A if
Yes, can you please post it on Q&A? Let's try one more. Kiran. Kiran? Okay. Kiran, would you like to place your question? Let's see. Is there a problem in, let's see, in the chat?
It says the chat is turned off.
Chat is turned off. No. Chat is working. And okay. Can someone please try to ask us a question in the chat? So we
You'll have to ask the question in the Q&A,
in the
not in the
Q&A,
chat.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Chat is turned
Yeah.
off because this is a Zoom webinar, but you can ask your questions here. So we can see the questions and we can type answers, or the mentors can type answers. So feel free to ask the questions through the Q&A. It's no problem. It's a Zoom webinar. This is why for chat we have Q&A instead of the usual Zoom chat. But you can use the Q&A freely at any time throughout the session. Don't worry. Okay. Okay. I think we're good. Let's then start the session today, because we are already almost half an hour into it. And we will start with the very first mentor with Pranav Kashyap, one of our UiPath MVPs. And we welcome and thank Pranav for being our mentor today, together with Marcelo, Lovely, and Gabriel also. And I think you have their LinkedIn profiles to connect with them as well. So Pranav, you have the floor.
Hey, Christina, thank you so much for introducing. First of all, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So welcome everyone. I can see the participants are around 1300s, extremely huge. So yes, so in this particular session, what we are going to discuss, I will be discussing the agenda, and then we'll be moving on what we will be discussing and how helpful this particular session will be for your upcoming sessions. So the session 1, that is the basic one, where we will start with the essential studio automation features, how to work with studio and all, which we will be seeing on. So the agenda for this particular thing will be basically the team introduction, followed by the what is automation, and then we'll be discussing about the benefits of automation, why we need automation. If the why is clear, then we can see what is RPA, and then once we understand RPA, then we'll come into the UiPath, and followed by many more topics that we have planned for you. So as Christian already introduced us, I'm Pranav, and the another speaker is Gabriel. So we will be handling the first session. The first half will be taken by me, and then the another half will be taken by Gabriel. Okay, now without further ado, let's start with the basic thing. What do you understand by automation? So now automation in general is a technology by which a process or procedure is executed with minimal human assistance. So anything that can be done without human assistance. So what automation helps us? Where does automation help us, and what does automation do? So first of all, it removes repetitive and unwanted tasks to enhance performance. So this is the most important thing. To give you an example, if anyone can think about automation, I just want to give an example of, for example, our washing machine. In if you remember the old days where we have to take our laundry and do it manually, but with the introduction of washing machine, how it helps us now. Someone is there, some thing is there where you can put it and your work is done. So what it does, it actually frees your time and it gives you more productive hours to work on. So this is what automation do in the old days. So the concept of automation is not very new. It is, and it was there, and it will be there in the coming days. The only thing that automation do is making our life more productive. It makes give us very free time so that we can work on more productive things. So just an example, now you can think, so Pranav, where we can use the automation? It can be used everywhere, not just restricted to any software, but it can be used in mechanical production, assembly line. You might have seen in any videos, movies, that robots are doing something, cars are making automatically by robots, and all those things are pretty good there. You have already seen it. So automation can be used everywhere. few example, if I again give you apart from the IT part, for example, bottle filling stations where Coca-Cola bottles are automatically filled using the machines. Then customer service chatbots, if you have recently used chatbots, are giving you responses. So this is where automation comes and helps you to give a different feeling. Now, since now you understand what is automation, let's see and go into the deep of benefits of automation. Why we need automation? Why there is a need? So the first question that we can understand from benefits of automation is it decreases operation cost. Anyone who is using anything, if you can understand this point, that earlier we were needing 10 resources to do a work, but after using, for example, any machines, that has reduced the cost. And this is where the benefit of automation comes. For an organization where we have multiple resources, if we can reduce few resources in one department and put those resources into multiple resources, so definitely that can helps organization to grow more and increase the profit. Again, the second point is decrease average handling time. Now, if you do something manually to pass something from one person to another person, it takes some effort to do it. But using bots, using computers, using sending emails, it reduces your time. So this is where the concept called average handling time from beginning to end, you can reduce by using automation. Assist worker safety. You might have seen that in nowadays in any war they are sending robots so that no human beings are impacted. And similarly on the same concept, wherever there is critical works are going on, we love a human being, so and we don't want their life to go simply like this. So that's where safety comes into picture, and we want wherever there is some critical work going on, and if a bot or robot can do it, go for robots. And this is where automation comes into picture. Finally, and the last point is it improves productivity. Now, when you use automation in your field, automatically it gives you that flexibility to work on the more productive work, and this way you can increase the productivity of yourself as well as your organization. And this way you can see the whole impact of what automation can brings for the organization. Now this was just a basic idea of automation. Now moving to the next slide. Next slide, we are this is where we are. What is RPA? I hope many people might not be aware of RPA. That's the reason we are starting from scratch. So RPA stands for Robotic Process Automation. So what is RPA? RPA is a technology that enables a software program to mimic human activities while interacting with computer application to accomplish required tasks. So in general, if I have to tell you, it is more like if you are working on any repetitive task, for example, opening your Google Chrome, typing something, and going to Amazon, searching for iPhone and getting the price of it. For example, this work can be done by any 5 class standard boy as well. You don't need a cognitive skills for these things. This is just an example. Now this is a repetitive task. This is you see that this is comes under a process. So what we can do, we can do this through the automation, which makes the person who was doing this mundane task, and we can place that resources into more useful and productive work. So this RPA is a technology that comes with this objective to automate any of our mundane tasks using this technology. Now, what it do? So basically, it reads and processes data in structured form. So if you are reading the data in a structured way, definitely it can help you. Now there are more advanced things also. It is not just restricted to structured, but just for an understanding, wherever you see a structured form where, for example, every time you are going there, you are clicking on the same application or you are collecting data from that, then that comes into a structured form. Another thing is easy to implement and powerful to scale. Like you don't need to create an infrastructure for this. You just need to install few softwares and that's it. You are done. Another very important point, it works 24 into 7 without making errors. We human being have the tendency to like work 9 to 5, 10 to 6, and in between we have breaks, we have different things going on in our mind. And in that way, we missed few of the things that are required and we make lot of errors. But bots are not like that. If you train them well, they will do the same exact steps without making any error. Again, the next point is creates a digital robotic workforce. Now, you don't need a physical one to carry to read the data and then type it there. Automatically, some bot is doing it in a digital workforce, which makes your life easier. Next is enable a software program to mimic human actions. Now, whatever you train the bot, like I have to go to this process, I have to follow this procedure, same way the bot will follow your execution and makes your life easier. And the last and very important one is operate on different applications. It is not just restricted to desktop application, web application, APIs, or only restricted to Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge. Nothing. It can be automate any application, whichever you name it, and we can automate these things. So this is what the quality and the beauty of RPA, that this industry is growing. And because of this particular objective, that we want to make sure that human beings work on a productive task and we as a bot can take all those mundane tasks. Now you understand what is RPA. I'll give you a 5 second to grab what I just mentioned. It was a technology to mimic the automotive task that human beings are doing. Now that is a technology. Now you need few tools to execute that. And this is where UiPath comes into picture. There are many tools, but we are the best and we are the top tool in the market. So I won't name any tool except UiPath. So UiPath is the first tool to go for this technology, and we are the one who uh, make pride in ourselves by telling we are the market leader in all these structure. So you can see here UiPath gives us 3 core components. What are those components? I'll quickly take you to that, and then we'll have the demo on everything what we are going to tell. So the first one is called UiPath Studio. What is UiPath Studio? So UiPath Studio is where a developer comes into picture. Developer will code it, developer will test it, and make sure developer will code, test, and run all those things so that whatever the code the developer has done it comes into a visual representation. And the best part of this tool is you doesn't require any coding knowledge on these things. It's just a drag and drop, which I'll be showing you how you can do that. Similarly, now once for example a developer has developed it, run it, tested it, okay, now you need a medium to run it from anywhere, and this is where UiPath orchestrator comes into picture. We call it the heart of our automation, where you take control when to run, how to run, who will run it. So all those questions will be done by this particular platform called UiPath Orchestrator. And the final is UiPath Robot. Is again, if you want to run it specific to anywhere, you just install this robots and you can do it this way. We will quickly, in this particular session, we will only be talking about the UiPath Studio, but don't worry. In our upcoming session, we will have all these platforms covered in more detailed way. Okay. Okay. Now moving to the next slide. Now I won't talk. I will show you the beauty of UiPath Studio and how easy it is to do anything from scratch. So in your college, in your whenever we talk about coding, we talk about, okay, let's do the hello world. So here also, I will also do the hello world. For this, I'll be using my UiPath Studio. So I'll be opening my platform UiPath Studio. So if you can see here, it looks something like this icon. You can see that. Now I'll be opening this UiPath Studio. Okay, so it takes around 5 seconds based on your RAM capability and all. And the first thing, when you open this particular studio, you can see something three screen. One is will be on your left side, another will be a middle and kind of a right template kind of structure you will be seeing. I don't want to confuse and create a confusion here. So the first thing that we do, if you can see here on your extreme right top, you can see that there is something called new project. And after that, there is something called process. So basically what we are doing, we are starting our project from scratch. Nothing will be there. It will all be scratch and we will be starting from there. There are other things as well, but due to our time constraint, I won't be covering this session, but definitely in your upcoming session, you will be having the knowledge of all of these things. And for now, you don't need to worry about what is this. Just focus on this, that you have something called process, which you can see on the right side. So I'll be clicking on this process. Once I click on this process, you can see here, you will get a pop-up box. And what is this pop-up box? This pop-up box will be asking you, okay, what is the name that you want to give for this process and all the basic details that you know. For example, I would say session 1 demo, some name based on your requirement. You can give any name. And then description is basically what this particular project is all about. So I would say demo day session 1, something on the more advanced level you can write it. And then you can see here the another section, that is location. So location is basically where you want to store this particular project. So by default the location will be there. In case if you want to change anything, you are happy to, you can click on this browse and you can store it anywhere. There are another things, by default compatibility will be there. I don't want to uh, confuse any one of you. Just I'll be using the Windows and the language would be VB or C Sharp. So whichever language you are more comfortable with, you can use anything. So I'll be keeping it by default, whatever is there, and I will use the button called create. So what I have done till now, I have used the process, then I have given the name, then I have given description, and I have not done anything. I have not changed anything on the pop-up box that was there. And then I press the create button. So once you click on that create button, it hardly takes 5 to 10 seconds of yours to create a project for you. And I do mention this thing, based on your RAM, it will take that particular amount of time. If you have a very good high RAM, it will take lesser time to open your application. So now I hope everyone has followed till here. Everyone understand, okay, this is UiPath Studio, how it looks like, then what I did and how to open one project. So basically what we are doing here, we are basically creating a hello world. And as we have more than 1,300 participants, I know everyone might have an experience on Java and any other languages that every Python and all. Everyone, if you remember your days of writing hello world in Java, then what it was something like print, and then you write it, then public static void main class, this that hello world imports, all those things. If you are mostly from the Java background, then you can relate to this point, that how difficult it was to write that one hello world code in that particular thing. So now we are here in our particular platform, where again you can see three sides. One is on the left side, another is on the middle screen, and the third one is the right screen. I'll quickly give you a tour of this particular uh, application, where you can understand what is this and what is the use of it. So basically, you can see on the left side, you have something called activities. So what do you mean by activities? So as I mentioned, in UiPath Studio, you don't write code. This is just a drag and drop features. So whatever you need, you have to come on the left side and pick it from there and put it into the this middle screen. I will show you how it works. And then on the right side, there are few properties of that particular activity which we'll be taking, which I will also cover in this particular session. And on the top, we call it ribbon. Here you can see the more nitty-gritty of that. Like for example, if you want to save it, you want to record it, computer vision, table extraction. These are all the important features of UiPath Studio, which will be covered in our upcoming session. Okay, so this is just a tool, a very pretty tool, very aesthetic look, nothing wrong in this, very pleasant to your eyes. Now let's show you how you can write your hello world here. So I'll be quickly showing you how to write it. So as I was mentioning a lot about activities. So what is activities? Activities is basically something which you will do in your particular flow. For example, if you want to debug a code. So you were debugging a code. If you are a developer, you know it, and you want to see the output. So you might have an output section to see that. So that comes in the activity section, and everything will be there. So you can see here at the extreme bottom left, I can see there is an activities, and I'll write something called message box. So now you might be asking me, what is this message box? So this message box is basically a way to show you something on the output so that you can see, okay, what we have written. So now the objective to show you how you can drag and drop those basic features into this. So I will quickly take this message box and drop it directly into the middle screen. You can see here what I did. I just used the drag and drop features where just clicking on that message box and just dropping it into that middle screen. Now you you might have observed that when it was empty, the property section was also empty. But now when you use this message box, some of the properties of that particular message box has also come. I'll talk to this later. Basically, whatever you write here in this message box, you have to write it in the form of a string. And for those who don't know about string, string is basically if you have to write my name, Pranav, or if you have to write anyone's name, so you have to write in the double quotation. So similarly, if I want to write hello world, what I will do, I'll use a double quote and then I'll write hello world. And I would write session 1. Something like this, I have written it. Now, as I mentioned, what to do, use a double quotes, and in between the double quotes, you have to write your text, whatever you have to write it. So I have followed the same thing, whatever I mentioned it. I want to save it. So which you can see that in your ribbon, which I was talking about, you can see there is a save button here. So I will just click on this and automatically this particular section is saved. Now, as I promised you, I will be showing you how to write your first hello world. So I have to run it because if you are a developer background, you know, for everything you have to run it. So here also you can do it. How you can do it? You can see here on your ribbon, you have something called debug files. Just hold the park. Let's just hold your question. What is debug? Gabriel will talk about these things in the coming coming minutes. If you can click on this drop down, you can see here there is something called run file, debug, and then again something called run. So for this particular thing, I'll be clicking on this run. Automatically, what I did, I just use something called message box as an input, and you can see here I got one message box with something called hello world session 1, and this is a pop-up that I have given. So how easy it was for me to write my first hello world, and I would appreciate if everyone like this, you just gives a thumbs up or anything so that our team can understand that you really like the UiPath Studio, that how easy it was compared to other programming that you know, for example, Java, C, C++, Python, and all those things. Okay. So this was just a basic introduction where I have to show you how you can write a hello world. Now, since hello world will not do anything to us, it was just for an introduction. Next is a very important topic where I will be focusing on, where how to create your own variables, constants, and arguments. Now, these are the three terms that we mostly use in our project. So basically, I will start you from what is variable. Okay. So I'll give a quick 2-3 second. If anyone want to share what do you understand by variables in the chat section, you can do it. Okay. Those who have shared that, what is variable? So variable is basically a variables are used to store multiple types of data. So for example, if you want to store any data, I will be explaining to you what does this multiple types of data means. So you can store those things into the variable. So there are many variable types here, where we can say Boolean, string, integer, object, data table, array, and there are multiple variable types which are also present here in our UiPath Studio. So now taking back to the UiPath Studio, where I'll be discussing about variables. So now let me uh, tell you how to create a variable. For example, if you remember, let me open a notepad so that you can better understand this. Okay, cool. So, for example, if I have to write a number, for example, this is the data that I have to use it. So I can definitely use this data wherever I want to use it. But the best use of variable is to store this in a data, in a variable type, where we can use that variable instead of that whole digit. For example, what I was telling, suppose if this is the number, you can't use the same number again and again and again into different places. So this, what we have come up with, we used to say something like this: x equal to this. So basically, what is this? Now we are telling the value of x is storing this particular data, and wherever we are telling this is x, we are telling this the data that we have. So this is the whole concept of storing the data. Now, as we evolved, we also evolved with the terminologies of the variable type. As I mentioned, int, then string. These are the two very common and the Boolean one that we are very often use in our daily life. As you know, what does int means? Int can be 1, 2, 3, any number. Any number that you can see here is an integer. Similarly, what is string? It can be anything in double quotes. For example, Pranav. Like this. And what is Boolean? Boolean is something called either true or false. If you have something like this, then this is called under the variable type. So if you remember if you have done it, so you were writing something like this: x equal to, or for example, string name equal to Pranav. So this is how you were writing in any of your coding languages. You might be writing str for a string or something like that. So let's use the same example first to show you how you can also create the same in this particular UiPath Studio. Now we are back to the studio. Now what I will do, I'll click on this variable section, which you can see here at the bottom of the middle template that you can see. So I'll click on these variables, and now as I mentioned you just take this as a our output. This is what we wanted. So what I will do, I will give a name of my variable. So what is the name? So just here, instead of this, I will give a good name. For example, mentor name. Okay. So I'll come here, I will click on this variable and I'll double click on that. I'll remove that and I'll write mentor name. So this is the name that I have given, following the same thing what you were doing from your childhood on Java C++. So I have just given a mentor name, and you can see here beside that there is a variable type string already attached to it, and I will also give by default a value. As I mentioned, this is a string, so you have to give something like Pranav. So what I have done, I have created a variable. What is the variable name? Variable name is mentor name. What is the variable type? Variable type is a string. And what is the default value I am storing? So I am storing something called name. Now I want to show it to you whether we are getting it or not. So what I will do, I will first delete the previous one, and then I'll take a message box, the new message box. And what I will do, I will be using this mentor name. So you can see here how the best part of UiPath Studio is, if you type your variable's name, automatically a hint will come to you that some name with this particular naming convention is there. If you want to use it, you directly use it. So now you can see that I have got my mentor name directly in the message box. And what I will do, again, I will click on this save and then run it. Before I run it, I will quickly recap what I have done it so that everyone will be on the same page. So basically, I have created a variable. I have clicked on this variable. I have given a name. And then by default, I have to give some name. So I have given a name Pranav. And then in the message box, I just call the name that I have written, that is mentor name. And now I'll save this and I'll click on run. And now you can see that the first variable that you have used, I got my name here as Pranav. Now you will be so happy to see that you don't need to do anything on this. You just write it here and get it. Now there can be multiple ways of doing it. I have just touched the one way of doing it. There are, as a disclaimer, there are many ways of doing it. People do it, but I will take another example here again. For example, I'll show you for an integer. For example, I would say just for a roll number equal to 1. Now, you will be asking me, okay, Pranav. So, for example, if there are any integer, so we will be writing something like this. I would say yes. Let's go ahead and show it to the public how we can do it. So, again, I will go here, click on my variable section. You can see here there is something called create variable. I'll click on that. And what is the naming convention I have used? In roll number, for example. So I'll come here and I'll write roll number. Okay. Now here is one twist here. Now you can observe that what variable type I have used, and I have used something called int. But here, if you do it, you can see here the variable type is of string, which I don't want. So now what is the option? How can I change it? So the only option here is if you just click on this string, there will be a drop down. You just click on this drop down and you will be surprised to see that whatever variable type there are multiple variable types available here. For example, boolean, integer, string, and whatever I discussed on the slide, everything is there. Based on your need, you use it. So basically, I will click on this int. And now, as you know, we don't need to write any double quotes or anything for any integer. Okay. Now, if you ask me, Pranav, I want to use this message box as well. So I'll take this message box here like this, and I'll again write something roll number. Okay. Now, Okay, I have written something like this. I'll press save and I will run it. Now the first pop-up that is coming, don't get confused. It was for the previous where I explained you the string. Now, if I press OK, you can see here, you got that number 2 as well. Okay. So this was the whole concept of variable. And also in that, I have also covered the constant part. For example, constant, what is constant? So constant is basically assigning a single value to your variable. For example, here we have roll number. So whenever you are calling roll number, it will be something like 2. This is how you can understand from the constant, because you are assigning one single data, a static data. Fine. Now, there is another very important concept that we have to understand in this particular session. That is something called arguments. Now you will be thinking, if we have already variables, what is the need of this concept called arguments? So for you to take you into more better way to understand this, for example, currently what is variable? Variable is something, if you are here like in your particular screen, this main sequence, basically, we have also local scope, global scope, if you have heard of it, in different programming languages. This is more on the advanced part. But here, for example, if you are using your variable, so you have a limitation. If I want to use this particular variable called mentor name to my other project, which I have created in the same project. For example, if I show you the project section, if you can see here on my the extreme left bottom, there is something called project. Okay, so here what we have to do, if you just click on this project, automatically you see here whatever the name I have given, for example session 1 demo, and by default there are few dependencies that you don't need to worry about. It will automatically get created, and a by default a naming session naming is also there, like main.xaml file is also created with this. Now in the variable section, if you are using only one XAML file, we call it, if you use only one XAML file, then it is fine. You can definitely use variables and you don't need argument thing. But for example, if you are using multiple XAML file, for example, I have just clicked on this top and I clicked on this sequence, and I would write here second file. I just created another file called second file. And you can see here the same, there was already by default, which is there at bold main.xaml. And the another one is the second something, the naming is wrong. I will rename it. Yeah. Yeah. So now you can see that I have created the second file. Now, if you need to pass the value or the data from one XAML file to the another XAML file, this is where the concept called arguments come into picture. So this is the again advanced level part where if you are a newbie, you don't need to worry about right now, and I don't want to complicate this. Just for your understanding, if you want to use different XAML file, and we recommend this for our best practices, that you should break your code into multiple XAML files. For that, easy testing, easy coding, reusable of file, all so many things are there that can be doable into the first go. So right now, if you have created multiple XAML file, if you want to pass some data into multiple section, then this is where the argument section comes into picture. So basically, what is argument? Arguments are used to pass data from one project to the another. In global sense, they resemble variables as they store data dynamically and pass in. There are 4 kinds of arguments: in, out, and property. So as if I go back to this studio, you can see here Again, you can see that if I click on the argument section, you have this, it looks similar to the argument. For example, if I write mentor name, but it has something different directions attached to it. For example, what is in, what is out, what is in out, what is property. So these are all we'll be covering on the next to next sessions, where we'll be talking more on the in-depth part of arguments. For now, I hope whatever I explained, I just recap whatever we learned during this part. It's basically, I talk about automation, I talk about benefits of automation, I talk about what is RPA, and then I talk about the market leader of RPA, that is UiPath, and then I talk about UiPath Studio. We have built our first hello world, and then we talk about the variable section, variable type, constants, and arguments. With this thing, I am handing over to my second uh, speaker, Gabriel, and Gabriel, stage is yours.
Thank you, Pranav. Gabriel, would you like us to make a short, like 3 minutes for Q&A? No, for live Q&A, Gabriel?
Yes, Christian, maybe we can start the Q&A, and maybe you can assign Gabriel the presenter access. I think he was not having
I
it.
think, no, Gabriel has, he's a panelist, so I just asked
Okay.
him to unmute. Let's see when Gabriel manages to come. Let me see again to the panelists. Let's see. He is
Just check
here.
it again if he's a panelist, or maybe
He is
he
a
is not a
panelist, and he's a panelist, so Gabriel, we have him here. So
okay.
let me also check in attendees, but oh,
No,
no,
you have
wait,
given
wait.
different Gabriel, I think.
Okay, Gabriel is now with us,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Meanwhile, we can start the Q&A session for 2 minutes, and then we can see if anyone has any questions. I can take it, happily take it. Feel free to unmute. Yeah, Gabriel is
Yeah,
back.
Thank you.
Gabriel, I'm sorry. We had another Gabriel.
Another Gabriel.
Uh,
Okay, thank you.
Maybe we can, yes, just we have
Ma-
2 raised hands.
The topic is very similar to what Pranav has introduced, so maybe we can leave the Q&A for to the end.
Okay,
Is that okay
okay.
for you?
Yes, then we'll
Because
discuss.
the transition is smooth, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect.
It's part of a continuation of the topic. So let me share a presentation, and we will continue the same way. Looking at some slides, short slides, short explanations, and demonstration. So thank you, Pranav, for introducing all the topics. It was great. Okay, so let me share my screen, and we will see. Okay, from here. So Pranav explained about the basic concept of developing in Studio, the experience, the drag and drop experience, the low code environment or no code. I would say low code, but 95% of the times we don't need to use code in Studio. But anyway, we can move to more advanced topics. For example, this is one of the courses of the training for this certification, that is data manipulation with the strings in Studio. It is about how to handle strings and what we can do in this environment to handle the strings, and why. Let's say why first, because we handle or we face many situations where we have to manipulate the strings. For example, when you are dealing with screens, RPA usually do that to mimic human interaction with applications. So if you have to scrape data from a screen, then probably you will have to manipulate that string. In other situations, you have to manipulate the string obtained from a document, text, or from the body of an email or other kind of message. Or maybe we have multiple scenarios, other inputs where we have unstructured data that we have to somehow manipulate, standardize, normalize. Well, the objectives are the ones that are mentioned above. So what do we have here? If you're familiar with .NET developing, you will see that the methods available are the same that you use for in .NET environment, because Studio is built on top of .NET. But if not, don't worry. You can just search the UiPath documentation, the academic courses, or also if you look at the Microsoft documentation for a string class, you will find the methods that are available inside UiPath Studio. So that's an easy way to get more tools, more information for what we need. So what kind of methods do we have? For example, to evaluate strings, we have contains to evaluate if a certain substring is contained, starts with, ends with. Then we can use other methods to search or locate a specific substring within a string, like index of. If we have to manipulate strings, splitting or substring to crop part of a string, or other modifications like replacements with replace, trim to remove white spaces from beginning and end, and to upper to lower, to standardize, to lowercase on uppercase. So these are common methods that we use, and the idea is now to give a demonstration on one of the scenarios mentioned before. Then also for handling a string, we have some activities. Pranav mentioned the activity panel. There you have the whole list of activities, and you can install more with additional packages. But in the default one and in the default packages, you have these 3 activities that have the capability of use regular expressions. If you're not familiar with regular expression, this is something, it's a notation, it's a common notation between many environments and languages that lets you find patterns of data. So you can use regular expressions to find a pattern of data within a string, or to evaluate a string, or to replace data in a string by using this regular expression. So the intention for today is to use one of these with a very simple pattern. And if you want to find out more, there are many tools and resources to get more knowledge about regular expressions. So let's go with the studio, and let's work with a demonstration. Here I have my studio, an open project already created, the same one that Pranav created, a blank project, but it already has some folders and some resources like data files inside. Then I'm going to upload this example for you to have it in the form thread, so you can also review. So let's create an additional workflow. Let's call it extract field. Why are we doing this? Because the idea is, from this particular text file, is to extract some data. For example, this 8-digit number. So in the middle, we are going to use a couple of string methods and also a regular expression. Okay, first of all, let's find the label before the field that we want to extract. In this case is these letters. We are going to copy, so it's easier. So for that, we are going to use an assign, but in this particular case, with a multiple assign, that is prettier when you need to do more than one. So we're going to create a variable called local level position, level pos, of type integer to store the position of this specific word to be found. Oh, sorry. First of all, we have to read the file. So let's read it. And then we remind text ticket.txt. Okay. I'm saving the output to a variable. I can create variables right here in the property panel with Control K shortcut. So file text is the name that I'm going to give to this variable. So I have this file. I'm going to read this file and put the text on this variable here. So then I want to find the position of the level that I want, because I want a specific field to be found. So let's say file text is the variable that stores the whole text of the file. And I'm going to use now the index of. And what do I want to find? That particular text that was an arrow space t dot. Okay. So looks right. Okay. Then I will use another variable. Its name is crop text, because I want to save the text after the level. So now I'm going to use other string method, that is substring. So we have the level position. So now we can crop from this position to the end of the file. So I'm going to assign to this crop text variable the content of file text dot substring. There you have the method. And the argument for this method, this start index, will be the variable level position, level pos that we assigned previously. Okay, so now we have the reading of the file, we have the position of the level, and we have the text crop from that position. Okay, let's continue. What else? We mentioned that we wanted to use a regular expression. So we have, if we search by matching or match, there you have these three are the ones that I mentioned in the slide. Particularly now we are going to use find matching patterns to find the first pattern after this crop text. I mentioned that this was the sample, so I wanted this 8-digit number. And it won't be confused with any previous 8-digit number because it is cropped from this position. So let's do it. As input, I'm setting the crop text Sorry, the tooltip is okay. Now you see text to 13, crop text is the input, and the pattern. We are not using the regex builder. Then you can check it by your own. You have a configuration utility inside here. Now I'm not using it. I'm just setting a very simple pattern that is the 8. It's this specific pattern is 8 digits. This is a regular expression, a very simple one. And we are going to store the first match in a variable that is field value. I'm creating the variable right now again with Control K. So the idea is for this data to be stored here, and let's show the result in a message box. Field value. Let's see if it works. I'm running it with debug file now. Okay. That's okay. Probably I'm also having, I'm not seeing it in this kind of message box, but probably the result includes some white space. So to avoid that or not, okay, not because I have this regular expression, but even if we have the doubt of including white spaces, we can also use the .trim or include trim method to eliminate any possible white spaces at the beginning or end. So we avoid failures when you have to output that data probably in a system, and a white space can be a problem, for example. Okay, so that is our first demonstration. Let's continue with the presentation. The other topic that we have for today is about data tables. And what is a data table? Well, this is a continuation of what Pranav explained, because he explained about variables. So we have variables and different data types like a string or integer. And a data table is also a type of variable, but that can store data in a table format. But we have to be aware all the time that this is a variable. This is an in-memory representation of a database table, and it's not the same as an Excel file. Why I say that this? Because most of our automation, or many automation, works with Excel, read Excel, output in an Excel. So we may think that we are working directly with Excel file, but if we are working with a data table, what we do is read, put that data in a variable, and then manage that data, and then output somewhere. So we are not working directly in the Excel file. So that's why there's a difference, and it is also explained in the course that the data table is an in-memory representation of a single database table, and an Excel worksheet is a worksheet linked to a file, and it's a visual representation of data with different visualization options. It can include also other kind of elements like graphics, images. So it's not the same, but probably most of the times we obtain a data table, or we populate a data table with data obtained from an Excel file. We have a lot of activities, and this is the list. And also, if you write data table in your activities panel in the search part, you will see this list. It's a good thing for you to explore the activities, not only these ones for data tables, all the activities. So you are familiar with the options, with the possibilities you have, with if you know that you have a specific activity to do something, it means that you can do that step easily. Otherwise, maybe it's more difficult with some other advanced feature, but you have hundreds of activities. So it's good to explore them, not to have all in memory, but to be familiar with them. I put it in bold. I put in bold all the activities that are frequently used when talking about data tables. And we are going to use some of them now in the next demonstration. So the idea in this second demonstration of this part it's to build a data table with data that is obtained as part of the process, not because I read some data source like an Excel file or a database source. I want to populate a data table while processing, because I'm processing, I'm doing something in a loop, and in each uh, part of the loop, in each iteration of the loop, I want to store a single row in a data table. So how do I do that? And how can I do some other steps with this? Okay, here is my studio, and let me show you what is my idea. Here I have these files. Don't worry about what are these files. What I want to do is to iterate through loop these files, extract some data from the names, and put it on a data table to be then exported to a file like a CSV or an Excel file. Okay, so let's create another XAML file. In this case, I can name it populate DT. Okay. So if I want to loop, and this is also something from the topics for today, that are the file activities. If I want to loop files, I can use something that is a loop, but a specific loop that is part of the file branch of activities for each file in folder. I can iterate the files contained in a specific folder. In this case, the folder is data input docs. So okay, so with this activity, I iterate or loop this folder. And I'm going to have this variable, temp variable current file to obtain the data from each specific file. We are going to, I mentioned that we're going to do some handling of the data obtained from the from the name of the file. We are going to do this. But first, I mentioned that we wanted to populate a data table. So if I want to populate a data table, I need to use this activity that was mentioned in the slide, build data table. The idea of this is to instantiate a variable, and then we can also set the columns. So I'm going to name with Control K. I'm going to create and assign at the same time DT, let's say reports as name, because I think they are reports. And in this configuration part, I'm going to remove these example columns and data, and I'm going to create two columns. One is post number, and the other is doc name. Okay, so I'm building this two-column data table. Okay, now we are going to use again multiple assign inside my iteration, inside my for each file. So why? Because I want to do something with this, that is to obtain the first and the second part of this file. So how I am going to do this. First, let's split the name. So I can split the parts of the name if they have a delimiter like this, an underscore, with the help of, first of all, I have to create a variable. I am going to name parts, but in the form of an array. This is something that also Pranav explained. Array of string. Okay. So name parts will be the result of current file. This is a specific object with the information of each of the files in the loop. Current file dot name, only the name, dot split, and the delimiter that in this case is underscore. Okay, so there we have the name parts. And we will use a specific activity to assign values in the data table. Here we build the empty data table, and now we are going to populate row by row with the help of add data row. So add data row will add rows to the data table DT reports. And how do we define what is the row? In two ways. If I have a data row variable, and if not, I can define it as an object right here. So I have to do it this way, new object, and inside the curly brackets, I put the parts or the columns, and in this case is name parts 0, the first element, and name parts 1. Okay. And I can save the results somewhere. Maybe we can use a CSV or an Excel, maybe suitable also. Sorry, I have many Excel, and this is a CSV will be simpler. Sorry. If not, I will use all the time. Okay. Right from the data table I have just populated, right to what file. This will be data output, and let's put a name like output CSV. Okay, action, what to write, include the headers. I have the headers because they are part of this, and they are defined here in build data table. So let's run. But I can do something else. Let me do something else, not just exporting this two-column data table. I can, for example, if we say that these are reports and we want to add an additional column of status, and all these reports has the same status, like delivered, for example. We can use another activity like add data column at the end of the loop. So I can add to this data table the column name status with the default value delivered. Of type string. So we had a 2-column data table. Now we have a 3-column data table with a column with all the values the same because it has a default value. Let me check this. So I think it is okay. Well, let's see if it works. Okay, no errors at least. I have this problem with this panel. Let me check the output data, output.csv. Okay, it looks like it populated the data table with the separated values and also adding this column with a default value. So this was the demonstration for data tables. We also have another topic, but I think we are out of time. But just to mention with the slide, we see part of this in this last demonstration. That is how to handle local files. For example, we did this. We iterated through a list of files in a folder, but we can do any kind of action that we need to do with a file, like copy, move, create, delete, rename. Get information, specific information from a file, like the size, dates, and also we have activities, specific activities with the default packages that can handle compress files, to compress or to unzip also files. So you can explore them by searching the activities panel, put file, and there you will have the list. Play with them. It's a good way to get experience working with the studio or any kind of development. And also regarding debug, you will see that any of the execution I did was in the by using the debug file option. Usually I do this because when you first run your execution, probably something is wrong. So if you run it in debug file is running in debug the selected file, in this case, a specific separate workflow file, or debug for running in debug the whole project. The studio will stop and show you detailed information about the error and also information about the variables by that specific moment when the error occurred. You can also set other options that you see in the debug ribbon. You have a specific execution options like step into, retry a specific activity, ignore, or restart. And another recommendation that we do is use the breakpoints, because the breakpoints helps you understand what is happening in the middle of your process. For example, let's say I want to execute again this populate DT, and I want to be sure that the split of the name of the file is correct. So I can set a breakpoint here and examine the execution. Let's do it quickly as the final demonstration of this session. So I can set this breakpoint here, execute as a debug file. The execution is stopped, and then we can check, for example, the variables that we have assigned so far, like, for example, name parts. So I want to check if the name was correctly split. Okay, here I have the array with the different elements. So it seems okay. And then we can continue executing. I can disable the breakpoint in the middle of the process also to let it run without the stops to the end. Okay, so this is all of the topics for this session. I hope it will be helpful for you to understand the foundations of developing with a studio. And we have now some questions that I think were already answered, and we are also available for answering more questions. I'm sorry for using more time than the
Okay.
one scheduled.
Let's maybe see who has because we have, I see, some raised hands here. So let's stay maybe 5 more minutes, and the rest, my colleague will share again the forum thread in the chat with you. As I said earlier in the chat, you can use the forum thread to ask the critical questions that you didn't find the answer yet in the Q&A form. So for these ones, please be trustworthy, use the forum thread. If we don't have the answers yet, we will get the answers from the extended UiPath team. Just make sure you put them there, but do not repeat the questions which may be already answered. So you can look in the log of answered questions and see, copy paste it if you want, see if you find the answer there. There were over 170 answers, so there is quite a lot of information in the Q&A so far, and thank you everyone who helped. And now let's go to unmute, and again, we will take maybe 5 to 10 minutes for this, not longer. James, if you can unmute, please, and ask your question. James Enrique, you have a raised hand in the chat, James. So let us know in the chat if you cannot. Okay, you're unmuted now. Let's see. Can you tell us your question, James? Okay, it seems James does not want to talk. Let's see the next Fernando. Fernando?
Yeah, Chris, unless they're a co-host, I don't think they can speak.
They can speak because I'm asking them to unmute and I'm allowing them to talk.
Oh, okay.
So Fernando currently is like allowed to speak and he has the raised hand and he can unmute as well. Fernando? Let's see. Fernando Cruz, would you like to ask your question? Okay. Let's move to the next. I don't know why, but I also asked in the chat, so let's see why this is not working. Let's try with Dorothy now. Dorothy, right? Okay, Dorothy, you are unmuted. Okay, Dorothy.
Sorry for the ones that ask for increasing the size. I wasn't checking the chat at the moment, but I will upload the exercise in the thread, so you can review all the properties, all the options, and will be
Okay.
there.
Let's see with Kartik. Kartik, would you like to unmute and ask your question? Can any of you write to us in the Q&A like whether you have a problem with unmuting? Because in the chat I see no answers. And Kartik, I don't see you unmuting either. Okay, let's try with the next Manu. Manu, would you like to ask your question, please? Manu? Let's see. Okay, Manu dropped. Let's try with Jakub. Jakub? Okay, Jakub. He unmuted.
Yes.
Lucky. Okay, see, it works.
Okay, it works. I
Welcome,
was
Jakub.
thinking if that was the technical problem or is it possible
No,
to talk here? Yeah, it's possible
people
for
are just
everyone.
shy.
If you
People are
want to,
just shy.
it's possible. Okay. So my question is, in the next sessions, we will talk about AI Center and document understanding. And I know that in document understanding, you can connect the trained model prepared in AI Center to create automation with documents, invoices, and etc. And AI Center is not accessible for community version. There will be any chance that we get some access to any AI Center tool that we can play with?
Does any of our mentors want to answer that?
Yeah, I can take that. If I correctly understand your question, AI Center is not available. This is what you were telling, Jacob, right?
Yeah, AI Center
Uh,
is not available in the community version. In
okay.
cloud option,
So yeah, so you can do one thing. There is something called free trial for 60 days for enterprise one. You can use that part for 60 days and you can use the AI Center. And in that 60 days enterprise version, you will have almost all the features of UiPath there for 60 days.
Can I do it with simple Gmail address?
No, you can't. You need an organization enterprise address, email address.
Okay, all right. So as an individual, I cannot do it.
No, as an individual, you have to use the community version where you have all the things available for community.
Okay, I just shared a link in the chat to everyone with the free trials and downloads, a link from UiPath where you also have the enterprise free trial that the Pranav just mentioned. What we also know is that it is accessible for community, but we have a limited amount of AI units for the community license. So if you want, maybe Jakob, you can also post your question in the forum and one of our mentors will explain to you how to access through the community license and what is the limitation with the AI units. The AI units, though limited, they will be enough for the training purpose. So you won't be able to develop like enterprise projects, but for the current purpose, which is the training persons and the academy learning plan, it will carry you through that. So we will extend this because I've seen this is not the sole question. So many people also asked about the limitations and about the licensing and access to the AI products. So we will most surely like attack this question also on the forum thread for everyone to have a clear path of how they can access the product, because it's important to have access to software. Those of you indeed who can download and do the free enterprise trial, please do. So those who have enterprise accounts, please go and enlist for the free trial account, because that's unlimited and for 60 days you'll be able to play as much as you can. And yes, for the rest, we will take care with the community license. Let's see the next question. Thank you very much, Jakub, for that. It was a great question. And let's see now who else is here. Let's take Neiva. Neiva, hello.
Hello. Hello, Christina. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for all. Very important this session. I have one question maybe to Gabriel about the data sets. For example, if I'd used to work with Python and R for large files, okay, for data and analytics, for example. Using data tables, is there some limits or, running time execution to use large files connected to data lakes, for example? The objective is to make some ETL process, for example, to load a report in Power BI, for example. Is there any suggestions to using data tables with large files?
Good question. I don't have the exact answer. I don't know if Pranav has it in terms of how many rows, how many or maximum size in memory. But usually data tables are big enough to store the data for this kind of use cases. Anyway, when you say large, we have different kind of large situations. So
Yeah.
probably we will need to give it a number and we can check that information. I don't know, Pranav, if you have it, and a number of maximum rows for data table, something like that. If not, we can answer in the thread.
Not yet that we are aware of maximum number of rows, but yes, we can look into that and we can comment back on this question.
Thank you.
In my case, I haven't seen a limitation, but I think there is a limitation, but I haven't reached a limitation. For example, I remember handling a million rows data table with no issues. But I don't remember a specific limitation. I can check and then share in the thread.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Let's take maybe one more, and then we will share some critical links with you in chat. I was just writing them up now. Let's go with Nelson. Nelson, would you like to unmute and ask your question? Nelson? Okay, maybe Nelson doesn't want. Let's go with Kartik again to see if he wants to talk with us this time. Kartik? Okay, Kartik is not. Mohammed. Mohammed, would you like to ask your question? Mohammed Imran?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah. Lucky that I'm able to unmute. Okay. My question to Gabriel, you did mention about this particular feature that has to be enabled, right, in the enterprise version. So in usually in the organizations, we use the enterprise version. So this feature of AI, will it be auto-enabled, or do we need to go and enable some capabilities or run any commands to get that feature enabled for us to go and test the AI capabilities?
I think the previous question was related to AI Center specifically. That is one of the services from the platform that usually does not come with a community version, but as Pranav mentioned, it can be enabled by using a trial account. But there are other AI features that are available, are usually are in fact available in the community version. So it depends on what a specific service or capability. For example, Gen AI and all those activities that are part of that specific course. For example, you have it with community. But there are other features that you will need trial version, enterprise trial.
Okay, how about the enterprise version, the versions that usually companies purchases and would have installed, right? The enterprise versions. So will that have the extensive list of all the capabilities?
It depends
I can
on the license. Yes, please, Lovely.
Yeah, so there are various deployments happen. So depending on the environment, whether it is the UiPath Cloud or the automation suite, so those features will not automatically be enabled because of the licensing. So it depends on which particular services you would like to avail. The licensing and costing happens with that particular services that you take for or opt for the platform. So again, it is based on the licensing that you opt. But yeah, in a particular platform, whether it is an on-prem or it could be the automation suite or could be the UiPath Cloud, all the services would be enabled. So if you have the licensing and costing enabled budget is there, then you can enable all the services at one go.
Okay, but let's say if we have to explore the capabilities, we just have to use that 60 days trial version and explore the features, correct?
Yes, it would be advised the same.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you all, everybody, for joining. We are a bit over the hour, so we will stop session 1 here. I hope everyone had a great day today. I know the volume of attendees was maybe a lot for you as it was for us, but I hope we managed to do a good job in keeping up the answers through the Q&A. Again, try to look at the Q&A log to see if you find your answer. Try to take a second look, please, everyone, at the series page. You have the link in the chat. So before asking, look well at the series page and see whether the question you have is already addressed there, because most of the questions were already addressed in the series page text. And for the rest of the questions, the critical ones which we couldn't answer in the series or in the session, or we might not have answered yet in the series page, please post them on the UiPath forum thread, which you have now in the chat. You can confirm me through the Q&A that you received the links I placed in the chat, the links for the next session, the forum thread, and the link for session 1, where tomorrow you will find the recording and the PowerPoint deck for this session in order to have everything at your hands available to continue to upskill self-paced and go through the Academy plan as well. Do not forget that. Thank you very much for joining, and thank you everyone, Pranav, Gabriel, Lovely, Marcelo, Diana, and the rest of my colleagues who were with us today also. They all were a critical part in making this session happen. Remember, we had 1,600 people in the session today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you
Thank
everyone
you.
for joining.
Thank
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.